Today is Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. The time is 7:30 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order and ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can we have the roll call, Linda?
Kiefhofer.
Here.
DeHaven.
Here.
Spruill.
Here.
Rainey.
Here.
Yazzie.
Here.
Dobry.
Here.
Medina.
Here. All right, note that we have a quorum. And then I'll ask for approval of the agenda, or would anyone want to amend the agenda as is? If not, do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that the council approve the agenda of January 10th, 2023.
Second.
Motion made by Yazzie, seconded by DeHaven.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Kiefhofer.
Aye.
Spruill.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're moving on to number 2 on the agenda, the consent agenda. A list under consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. This agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. Either the public or a council member may request that an item may be removed from the consent agenda at the time prior to council's vote. I will ask if a citizen or council member wishes to have any specific item removed from the council agenda for discussion. A, approval of council work session and agenda minutes for December 13th, 2022. B, approval of expenditure list in for January 10th, 2023. And C, approval of a renewal hotel and restaurant liquor license for Lakeside Lanes Incorporated, doing business as Lakeside Lanes, located at 410 Lakeside Drive, Cortez.
Madam Mayor, I'd like...
Council,
Go ahead.
I move the council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Rainey and seconded by Dobry.
Kiefhofer.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Spruill.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're moving on to number 3 on our agenda, public participation. There's no limit to the number of speakers, although public comment will be held to an overall time limit of 30 minutes. Speakers have a time limit set of 3 minutes per person, may only speak once, and may not cede time to another commenter. Do we have any comment cards tonight? Okay, we'll close the public participation section and move on to 4 presentations. 4A on our agenda is a presentation by Andrew Wendt on our audits for 2017, 18, and 19. And then can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great, great. How's everybody doing this evening?
Good. Excited.
So Drew, if you don't mind, good evening, Madam Mayor and honorable council members. If you would allow me a bit of leeway this evening, in your packets, you not only have the 2017, 2018, and 2019 audited financial statements, there's also a memo included in the packet. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just read that so that we have it on the record. In July of 2019, it was discovered the then current finance director, Kathy Moss, had been embezzling funds from the city of Cortez. She was prosecuted and a new finance director, Ben Burgett, was hired. At this point, no audits had been completed since 2016. In December of 2020, the audit for 2016 was completed and Mr. Burkett left the city. In February of 2021, the current finance director, Kelly Koski, was hired, and in May of 2021, our new audit firm, Atlas CPAs and Advisors, was hired, along with our new city manager, Drew Sanders, and work began on the 2017 audit. At this point, audits from 2017 through 2020 were incomplete, leaving an unprecedented and overwhelming task that was literally getting worse over time and threatening the financial future of the city. With the 2017 audit, there were known embezzlement issues, which put the city in a very high-risk audit category. In November 2021, audit work was complete for the 2017 audit, and by February of 2022, audit work for 2018 was complete. By August of that same year, the 2019 audit work was complete. Currently, the 2020 audit is underway, well underway. The A133 single audit that's required for the airport is already completed. To give you some perspective on this timeline, it took the two previous finance teams 4 years to complete one audit. The current finance and audit staff have completed 3 years of high-risk audit work in 14 months. Because the person who embezzled funds was still working for the City of Cortez through the first quarter of 2019, Atlas CPAs and advisors wisely chose to defer completion of the final audit reports for these years until the 2019 audit was done. The workload has been immense, especially when one considers the overwhelming challenges of overcoming the extreme disorder of city financial data during the high-risk years, coupled with the ongoing audit processes, all occurring in tandem with the need to effectively manage the ongoing day-to-day operations of the finance department. All of this was accomplished with no additional staff members being added for support. The embezzlement incident caused a lack of trust and sharp divisions within our community, our partner organizations, and staff. Misinformation was widely circulated regarding our ability to apply for grants, assumptions that our financial software somehow caused enabled the embezzlement, that the finance department was being unresponsive, incompetent, or hiding information, and those assumptions still remain within the community today. We hope our actions to date have helped recover some of the precious trust lost within our community and help pave the way towards healing the damage the circumstances inflicted upon all of us. As a result of the audits not being current, the state auditor's office previously had a standard practice in these circumstances and directed the Montezuma County to withhold property taxes until the audits were current. The state auditor's office has now instructed all tax revenue be released through the end of 2019. The current finance and audit teams are very qualified, dedicated, competent, and knowledgeable. The team has made enormous strides in a very short amount of time towards correcting the massive issues they inherited from the past. This work could not be accomplished without the hard work, dedication, and resilience of Ms. Sarah Coffey, who's in the audience this evening. Please stand to be recognized. Mr. Scott Baker, who's also in the audience this evening. Lynette Reese, David Shack, and MJ Reike. And of course, Andrew Wendt, fondly known to the finance staff as Drew 2, with Atlas CPAs and advisors. Their dedication, knowledge, and expertise have been invaluable. Thank you very much. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Andrew Wendt, Drew 2, Auditor Extraordinaire. Take it away.
I just want to verify with you, Kelly. So the property tax that's being withheld, they're going to give us back the 17, 18, and 19?
That's,
Or
Yes.
release it, I guess?
Yes.
yeah, that has been released now that the audits are completed,
Okay.
or will be released, yes.
But then in terms of like conservation trust funds, that still can't be released until we've gotten all of the audits. We're completely up to date.
Correct. That is the Conservation Trust Fund's stance.
And then is it the same with DOLA?
We don't have any funds that are being held by DOLA.
Okay, or like applying for funds through DOLA?
So we've actually applied for funds. I think you'll remember the swimming pool initiative grant. That was a initiative that came from the governor's office, but those funds actually flowed through DOLA. So we've actually received grant funding from DOLA.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, do you have a question, Robert? Okay. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, all of you. It's,
Mayor and council, while we still have Kelly up at the podium, we have Drew here, I'd just like to reiterate, this is a major accomplishment, and if it's the will of the council, I'd just like to thank them again for their hard work and dedication.
all right, it'll be nice when all this is behind us.
Yes, there will be. Thank you. And thank you, Drew, too. We'll be talking soon.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Can I just end this? Okay. Does it need to download the recording? Okay. All right, we're going to move on to 5 on our agenda, public hearings. 5A is Resolution Number 1, Series 2023, presented by our contract city planner, Nancy Dalsdall.
Good evening. I'm in a bit of an awkward position because I did inform our applicant that the first item on the agenda would take longer than it did, and he's not here yet. So I don't know if you want me to go ahead or if we want to bump it towards the end and wait for him, or how you want to proceed on this.
Yeah, can we put this off until he gets here? And
Yeah, Mayor, you can, as the chair, I think you can just put it aside and recall it at the appropriate time later in the agenda.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we're gonna pause public hearings, because that's our only thing under that section, and we'll move on to new business, which is number 7 on our agenda. 7A is 2023 street sweeper bid results, presented by Rick Smith, our General Services Director.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to present the bid for the street sweeper. As way of background, the 2023 Equipment Fund budget provides $280,000 for the purchase of a new street sweeper. This unit is planned to replace Unit 998, which will, once we get the new one in, the old one will go to public auction. Bids were drawn up and received on December 16th of last year, 2022. The city received one response to our bid request. Hardline Equipment provided a bid for a DeLevo Model 6000 regular dump vacuum assisted sweeper in the bid amount of $299,772.25. However, that price included a lot of options that the city does not need. In fact, Public Works, with their street sweeping crew, got a hold of Hardline and was able to remove $6,326 in options that are not needed by the city. So this would lower the purchase price to $293,446.25. And as you note, that this is about $13,446.25 above the budgeted amount. There are funds in the equipment fund to cover this, and that's really about it.
Rick, can you talk to the unit number 998 that's going to public auction? I mean, it seems like something like that going to public auction would easily make up that difference of the 13,000. Probably, I don't know what street sweepers go for. Maybe other people know.
Well, one would think it would, but there's not much of a market for street sweepers. I mean, it's not like a front-end loader, for example. We recently sold an older unit, and we went to nationwide auction through Big Iron, and I believe it only came in about $6,000. So it just depends on the market and the shape of the machine. Now, granted, that one we already auctioned was really rough, so.
I just
But
think
it would go a long ways towards helping, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Yep.
Okay, when is expected delivery if we order this truck? Like, when will we have it by? Is there a long wait time?
Those are manufactured in Italy. So in here, they've included the shipping across the ocean. And I think it'd be pretty reasonable compared to what we've been buying. It's not going to be a year, let's put it that way.
Okay. And then how do you come up with this original $280,000 set aside for the cost? Was that done last year and estimated how much one would cost?
It was done during the budget development phase, which was in August.
Okay.
And we have a meeting where we meet with all of the departments for the equipment fund that uses the equipment fund, and the departments submit a estimated cost, and that was the cost that was submitted and worked on within the committee for the budget process. So
Are you still seeing those trends? Because I feel like, you know, we estimate how much it's going to cost, and then 3 months later, it's a lot more. And is that trend still happening?
well, we are in an inflation period, and things are always going up, but you would like to have closer numbers for budget. In fact, I would rather come in here to city council, for example, with a $300,000 number and then come in with a lower price, but it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
Since we did only receive one bid request, can you detail the process of outreach and how you bid this out?
Okay, this was a little bit different type of a bid. It wasn't, it's what we call a performance bid. And conversely, like if we're going to buy a truck. If we're going to buy a truck, we specify the size of the axles, the size of the motor, the size of the rear end, the capacity of the bed, so forth. In this case, because street sweepers are so varied and different, we did it with a performance spec, which basically we didn't tell anybody that we had to have, for example, a 6,000-pound axle. I'm just using that as an example. Or that we needed a certain size broom, or we needed a certain size hydraulic system. We went out and we said, we want to be able to do this for the streets of Cortez. For example, we wanted to have a broom that we could reach up and sweep off the sidewalks off to the side. We wanted to be able to do wet vacuuming and versus just regenerative air. So these are the types of things, and this is what we got back. It in my view, worked pretty good because we weren't limiting it to one particular model, brand, or whatnot. So I have to believe it's more the nature of the industry as far as street sweepers. You can get, what we used to get was a Timco's, which is regenerative air, and then we'd have a Johnson street sweeper that was strictly a broom. This model is pretty much a combination of the two, and it'll be our second unit. We've actually got a DeLevo here right now, and it serves the city very well.
Okay, thank you.
It seems to be a common theme that we're only getting one or two bids back on our proposals. I'm wondering if there's another way you can get it out to more people so we can get more proposals. When we're just getting one or two back every single time, and it's been quite often now, and we're blaming it on a time period, is there a way, it's because of the times, is there a way we can put that bid out to more people? I'm sure there's more than one company put out a sweeper.
You're correct. There's many companies that put them out. There's Elgin, there's Timco, there's various models. And it is a concern. You're right to bring this up. One of the ways, I guess, in a traditional bid is to loosen up our specs. That's probably the quickest, easiest way to make it more even. But in my view, Dennis, it's a happy medium, what's best for the city versus what everybody can bid. So we need to look at what the use of the equipment is and how it fits with the city. I don't have an answer other than we could take more time and loosen up specs and lower the standards to where we could get more bidders. In this case, you would have where you opened it up to more bidders based on not so much performance, but just more of the old spec type thing.
Yeah, I gotcha. The only thing is, I'm wondering if our standards are so bad or so high that nobody can fulfill them because we're only getting one or two bids. And I would really like to see more bids on some of this stuff. It's, you know, it's a common theme now. We only had one bid. We only had two bids. And they're going to start bidding higher and higher and higher if there's no competition.
No, I agree with you. Very much so. Drew, did you want to add to that or anything?
Nope, I think you've covered it, and you're absolutely right. And we need to look if we need to lower our standards or not, but it is trying to find that balance. But I completely agree with you, and we are every bit as frustrated with this.
All right, do we have a motion on this then?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council award the 2023 street sweeper bid to Hardline Equipment, the Duovo 6000 sweeper in the amount of $293,446.25.
Second.
Motion made by Kiefhoffer and seconded by Yazzie.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Spruill,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right. Make sure no one's here. Okay. We're going to move on to 7B, which is the 2023 Service Center HVAC equipment bid, presented by Rick Smith, General Services.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Here again, this kind of dovetails on Dennis's last point. The 2023 and 2022/2023 capital projects have provided money to replace the HVAC units at the City Service Center. This was tied with the engineering that was done with the library and the Service Center. And these items have long lead times. They're about 9 to 10 months before their delivery. And the city bid out the equipment on December 28th. The only bid we got was from the national cooperative bid from Train Technologies by way of Omni Cooperative Purchasing Group. And the bid amount was $127,368. and the bid did include the manufacturer's warranty. This is the same type bid that we did for the library equipment. We're buying the HVAC units. Scheduled for this Friday, we're opening bids for the labor to install both the library and the service center. So this is just for the equipment, so that we can get them in the queue and get them delivered. This is a little bit different than the previous bid we just discussed in the fact that it's gone through a nationwide bid process and it's a cooperative bid. So it was competitive from that standpoint. That's really about all I have to present on it.
So is this the same company that bid for the HVAC equipment for the library?
It is, and Train is the winner of that cooperative bid, so that's why it's Train equipment again.
Are the units really similar so that whoever we hire to install them will be familiar enough with both? Are they the same unit, or?
Yes, sir. Most of the HVAC installers, they do both Train and Carrier.
I mean, I feel like this and the library in particular we've been talking about for a long time, and it's one of those things that, you know, putting it off is just not smart, or it's not really an option when it comes to HVAC items in particular.
Right. Actually, the city service center HVAC units are even a year older than what we're already replacing on the library. So the industry standard as far as life is around 10 to 15 years. And these units were put in 2001, to give you an idea. You know you've been around too long when you're replacing stuff you've already done once.
I recall that we replaced the HVAC system at the rec center within the last 5 years. Do you remember was it the same setup where we ordered pieces and then someone else did the installation? And do you remember who that was?
Those were Carrier units, but those were bid out with the installation of the equipment, and they provided the equipment. In this case, the city's providing equipment to get it into the manufacturer's queue for delivery.
Okay.
So it was a little bit different back then. So, and we weren't aware of the cooperative purchasing option at that time either. So.
And Mayor and Council, if I may, just to give a little history on this, this particular project and the library was actually in the 2022 capital project list. And we started on literally January of last year. This has been an absolute bear. We couldn't get people to bid at all on doing the engineering, any of the work. It took all year just to get to this point, and we had to back up and do it differently. Like Rick said, we normally bid it out, and then they would provide the equipment as part of their bid. We've had to piece this out just to get an installer and everything to do it, and on top of it, the long lead time we're having to wait. So we're trying to buy it now, hoping to get it done by this time next year. But this has been just a difficult process, and we understand the frustration, but from our perspective, this has been very difficult.
So just to dovetail on what City Manager Drew just mentioned, you might recall for the engineering for those two buildings, just to do the engineering piece, took 2 bid processes. The first time we bid it out, we got 0 responses. And that was due to the fact of the workloads of the new construction and stuff for the engineers. They couldn't fit us into their projects, so they chose the first go-around not to bid it. So we had to bid it again, and we had to kind of fit where they could put it into their schedule. So it's, as Drew mentioned, very frustrating.
With this cooperative purchasing agreement or group, how is this warranted? Is it warranted directly through Train, or through the cooperative purchasing?
It's from Train, but in a typical scenario, like the mayor referenced earlier, like on the library, or excuse me, the rec center, excuse me, when the contractor was going to provide the materials and do the installation, they included the warranty with it. We made sure during this process that the one-year standard warranty was included with the equipment we're buying. So this equipment is still covered just as it would have been in the traditional way.
Okay, and does that clock start ticking once it's installed and the project's accepted as completed? Is that?
Installed, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion on this?
I move that council award the 2023 Service Center HVAC equipment bid to Train Technologies in the amount of $127,368.
Second.
Motion made by DeHaven, seconded by Kiefhoffer.
Rainey.
Aye.
Spruill.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, are we going to move back to our public hearing? Okay. All right, so we're going to do number 5A on our agenda under public hearings. It's resolution number 1, series 2023, presented by our contract city planner, Nancy Dosdall.
Thank you, council members. The request tonight is for a site plan to essentially convert the existing Mesa Verde Inn located at 550 and 640 South Broadway from a motel to long-term apartments, or apartments for long-term rental. It'll be 57 apartment units once the conversion occurs. The applicant are Zuma Apartments LLC. They are here tonight, although I gave them some bad information on the start of the meeting. They have already applied for and been granted a number of variances by the Board of Adjustment and special exceptions from the Planning Commission. The variances are summarized in order to allow the conversion. The first variance was to the minimum floor area on the ground floor. The C commercial general zone does require that 50% of the ground floor in the commercial general zone be restricted to commercial uses. The remaining upper floors and the remaining 50% could be apartments or residential. In this case, the existing old restaurant and other commercial uses or office type uses will stay, although they have not yet proposed whether it'll be another restaurant or what that commercial use will be. The variance was granted by the Board of Adjustment to drop that down to 36.4% of the ground floor area, which is actually what the existing commercial non-motel space is. There was also 2 separate parking variances granted to drop the parking ratio down. And again, some of these units will be small studios and 1-bedrooms. The code requires 2 parking spaces, even for a studio unit. The Planning Commission in that case felt, and the Board of Adjustment both felt that that was an appropriate variance to grant given the proposed uses. And then the third variance that was granted by the Board of Adjustment is regarding the minimum floor area for each apartment. A number of the units, I believe that's 20, will drop below that 500 square foot minimum. And of course, that's due to the existing configuration of motel units being converted. Not all the units will be small, however, because some will be combined into 2, and in one case, a 3-bedroom unit for the long-term rental. When we look at the criteria for a site plan, normally we're looking At a new use, site plan review is really only required to an existing use conversion if additional impacts or changes are proposed. I think some might argue that converting from transient overnight restaurants to longer-term rental may be a little bit less impact as far as traffic. However, in this case, due to the variances requested, the site plan had to go to the Planning Commission. The outdoor changes that you will see on the site will mostly be restricted to restriping, changes in the parking layouts to allow for a little more efficient parking and a few more units to be fit in there. And then the existing motel pool will be filled in and converted to more of a playground gathering area. As far as the issues, the parking, as I said, was really about the biggest issue. Those variants, however, were granted. There are additional parcels owned by the applicants here that in the future, if there was a problem, could potentially be used for additional parking. We aren't convinced that that would be required, but it is available, and the variance, special exceptions were conditioned on them if problems were created that they use that for parking for their units. I guess honestly, for their own benefit, there isn't really on-street parking in the area where it would create congestion or problems if people couldn't park. So it's in their own best interest, I believe, to be able to rent the units to have adequate parking for the units. I provided for you the comments. Don't know that we need to go over any of those. Essentially, staff is recommending, and the Planning Commission also recommended, that the site plan for Zuma Apartments be approved. There are 3 conditions. Those are standard, meeting all requirements of city departments, codes, CDOT, and utility providers, that they provide appropriate construction drawings and signed and stamped by a licensed architect and an engineer, and then that final one, that should parking become a problem in the future, the applicants will propose additional space in either adjacent properties, or they also have the opportunity of converting some green space to parking. Kind of felt that it would be nicer for residents to have that green space available than paving it for parking that we don't believe would be used. Are there any questions?
Is the primary intention of this, so just thinking about the project itself, more along the lines of workforce housing or low-income housing, or what's the hope or the intention for this project?
I'm thinking our applicants might want to answer that,
Yeah.
but given the nature of the site, I think it's market rate. But why don't you go?
So, hey everyone, thanks so much. Our thought was, sorry, my name's Oliver. Some of you I think I've seen before, some of you I haven't. I'm one of the members of the LLC that purchased the property and have done all the plans so far and trying to move forward with this project. Our thought process was, obviously we had 88 rooms that were all identical to start with, minus the office. We were trying to develop a variety for the market. We didn't want to put 88 of one thing or 44 of another thing on the market. So we tried to do the studios, the 1s and the 2s, and then the office turns into a 3-bedroom, so that there's a true variety for everyone, on the market.
I guess my question is more along the lines of what is the kind of the cost point that you guys are planning to set these at?
So we've not done anything towards Section 8 or anything like that. All of our numbers, when we've looked at everything that is on the market at the moment, we're about 10 to 15% cheaper than everything that's advertised on the open market right now.
Thank
Because we
you.
obviously understand as well, putting 57 units on the marker is going to, we're not just going to fill them automatically. So yeah, we've definitely run our numbers extremely conservative to make sure that something actually affordable gets to market as well, which never really happens.
Any more questions? Did you mention handicap accessible parking spots?
Yeah, they should all be directly outside the ADA units themselves,
Okay,
and they are marked on the site plan.
great. I mean, I guess I'm a little concerned about parking, but if there's some kind of contingency plans for the future, that's good. But I also don't want to take green space.
We've had obviously numerous conversations in here about the parking. I think originally it was two parking spaces per dwelling. In Durango, I think that's 1.1 or something. So there was even people on the board that said to us that the original number, is something that's just unrealistic. But obviously with the contingency that's in there, we're obviously more than happy that if it comes to a point that something is an issue, we have gravelled areas that aren't green space and aren't where we want to put the pool, that is something that we can use if need be. But we're very confident with how we've run studios for 1 parking space, 1 bedrooms for 1.5, 2 bedrooms for 2, and 3 bedrooms for 3. We've attacked that from our point of view with common sense with how we see people using those units, and also the experience we've got with other units that we own, that at peak times we've got smaller parking spaces, smaller parking lots, and they're never full. So we're very confident that it's not going to be an issue.
I might have missed it, but can you see what the plans are for the office building that
Office
is there?
building is going to be a 3-bedroom unit. So that's our 1 3-bedroom unit, and then even when we ran our parking numbers, that gets 3 parking spaces.
And what was the plan for the restaurant?
At this moment in time, the number 1 plan will be a laundromat, dedicated for the tenants. Obviously, if we're putting 60 units worth of people on the market in that one area, to us, that's the first thing they're going to need. Outside of that, the second thought on the front of the commercial space is more of like a mini mart as opposed to a restaurant, because like we say, 57 units, they're the first 2 things we think of that then people are going to need.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming tonight to answer our questions.
I'm sorry we're a little late.
Oh, no, we're moving fast tonight.
That's good to hear. Well, thank you.
All right, do we have a motion for the site plan?
Mayor and council, yes, if I could suggest that maybe we open up for public comment before a vote.
Okay. Sorry if I cussed. I'm going to open this up for public comment. If anyone from the public would like to make a comment on this specific item. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment section. And then now do we have?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that the council approve resolution, oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Number 1.
Number 1.
No,
Number 1,
allocation.
sorry.
Yeah, top of it.
Okay, I'm still looking at the wrong one. Okay, sorry. I make a motion that council approve resolution number 1, series 2023, approving site plan change of use from mixed commercial motel to mixed commercial residential for 550 and 640 South Broadway with 3 conditions as stated in the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Yazzie and seconded by DeHaven.
Rainey.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Spruill.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right. Okay, that's it for public hearings. We're going to jump back to 7, new business. We're on 7 C, Resolution Number 2, Series 2023, presented by our contract city planner, Nancy.
This request is actually from the city of Cortez. It was recently discovered that Montezuma Ave, located between Mildred and Roger Smith, in front of this building here, it was entirely located within the boundaries of Park de Vida, never dedicated as right-of-way. So although it was owned by the city, located within the park, there was never a right-of-way dedicated for this. What this resulted in is that properties, including City Hall, located south of Montezuma Avenue on this block, did not have access to a public road. They accessed to the park and then technically to the public road. So to resolve this problem, we had a right-of-way dedication plat developed, and it's presented here for you tonight. We referred it to all the regular utilities and agencies. What this will allow, they've all commented positively, and that utilities are located within the platted right-of-way boundaries of the proposed dedication plat, and no one actually had any issues with it. So staff is recommending approval of the dedication plat with our 2 standard conditions for a plat, that if there are any issues, that all requirements of utility providers, city districts, et cetera, be satisfied and adopted city codes complied with, and that the plat be recorded at the county clerk's office within 6 months of approval. Any questions?
This was found coincidentally? It was like, it wasn't brought to anybody's attention, it was just kind of like discovered, or?
You know, I wasn't working with the city then, but go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, this was actually brought to us by our mayor at her former capacity with the county. It really is just a housekeeping thing, and to be quite honest, she brought it up to me a year and a half ago. It's just now rising to where we could get it corrected. So we didn't just kind of discover it, it was brought to our attention.
I love seeing this cleanup stuff, so thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move that council approve Resolution Number 2, Series 2023, approving a right-of-way dedication plat for Montezuma Avenue between Mildred Road and Roger Smith Avenue with the two conditions stated in the resolution.
I'll second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Kiefhoffer.
Spruill.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to 7D, Ordinance Number 1305, Series 2023. Our planner, Nancy Dahlstall, again.
You've seen this one several times now, so I'm not sure how far I want to go to it, but for anyone that has not been here previously, this is a amendment to the city land use code for mobile vendors or food trucks. Currently, the city allows mobile vendors, food trucks in all zoning districts except the central business district. That created concerns with maybe or lost opportunities for uses such as the farmers market that wanted to allow food trucks. We conducted extensive public comment where we received quite a bit of public support to having food trucks in the central business district. We then went out and conducted a lot more targeted public involvement with the restaurant owners downtown, in that they were the most likely to be impacted by food trucks in downtown. Based on all of that input and a number of different hearings, we have before you a proposal to amend the land use code to allow food trucks when a permitted special event is occurring. There is also a provision in there in the land use code to apply for a conditional use permit to allow a food truck on a longer-term basis or outside of a special event. They are limited in where they could go based on the code, and they would have that special conditional use permit review where it would go out for public comment, neighbors would be notified, we would have hearings in front of the Planning Commission and in front of City Council. So we feel like any restaurants that could be adversely impacted would have plenty of time to express their concerns. Any of the impacts that we talked about as far as restroom facilities, et cetera, could also be addressed through that permit process. Any questions? This is the first reading. There'll have to be a second reading before this would be adopted.
Well, personally, I feel like I'm still unsure about the approach we have on some things, but I want to see how this works over the next summer or year, and then be willing to revisit this and tweak it again. If it meets the needs of business owners who want to have mobile food trucks, or if it's still kind of hindering them, you know. But otherwise, thank you for all your work on this.
Yeah, I'll just kind of piggyback and say that we have talked about this quite a bit, and we've presented changes to you, and you've come back with those changes and presented again, which is huge. And personally, I think we are to the point where, you know, public hearing and a second reading is most appropriate. And if people really do have a problem with it, that would be really the time for them to come and voice those issues.
I'm inclined to agree with that, Matt. I think we've discussed this long enough that if there are people who are opposed to it, that we would be open to hearing what they had to say. Am I coming across okay? A little muffled? Well, I think we've discussed this for quite some time now, and so far no one has come forward to ask questions about it, so I think if there were some disagreements, then they should have been presented by now.
So to clarify, the recommendation would be after today, you would set it for second and final reading, public hearing on the 24th of January in 2 weeks.
So if this is to pass, you know, in the second final reading, organization like the farmers market to have food trucks, you know, how soon then would they need to get on an agenda and set that up? You know, the farmers market starts in June.
So the way we've set it up is when they get their approval to have the farmers market, they can have food trucks at it. We don't have to go through a special hearing for the food trucks for
Okay,
that
'cause
event.
that's the special
So
events, that's
for,
right, okay.
yeah, third Thursdays? Those types of events, as long as they've been approved, they could, as part of their planned event, have a food truck at it. But that's the only time you would see food trucks downtown, unless somebody applied for a conditional use permit. Those probably take about 3 months to get through, all the way through the process. So if somebody is thinking of doing a food truck court or wanting to have a more permanent food truck downtown, they should probably be applying fairly soon after this.
And just to add something, when we did the outreach to the public and the businesses, we took down email addresses and created a list, and so every time we've spoken, to council or P&Z about it, we've sent them a notification. So we have been notifying them of all these meetings.
Great, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council approve on first reading ordinance number 1305, Series 2023, amending the City of Cortez Land Use Code, Section 3.05, use regulations regarding mobile vendors, and set the public hearing and second reading for January 24th, 2023.
Second.
Motion made by Kiefhoffer and seconded by Yazzie.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Spruill,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to 7E, reappointment of members on city advisory boards. Linda?
Thank you. Good evening, council. Before you are the board positions for the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board, Planning and Zoning, Library Advisory Board, Board of Adjustment and Appeals, and the Golf Advisory Board positions that their terms expired in November. In that time, since that has happened, we have completed background checks on the 8 people that have reapplied for their positions. Also, during that time, we did advertise the positions on our website, and we did not receive any letters of interest in the time that we did advertise that, and this memo was prepared for City Council. Currently, we have open seats on the Arts Advisory Board as well as the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board. We have some still open on that, and they are advertised. And if you guys know of anyone that's of interest on those boards, have them come to the clerk's office. But I just wanted to bring before you these 8 people that are still interested in serving on our advisory boards and ask for your reappointment of them. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Linda, I just had a question about term limits. Are there term limits on any of those advisory boards?
Yes, they are 3 years.
They are?
Yes, sir.
No, I mean, sorry, not the limit of term, but is there a limit to the number of terms that one can serve?
There is not.
Okay, thank you.
I thought about that too, and then I was kind of thinking, like, I'm always glad when people step up to serve in positions like that. I think it's really nice to have community members step up, and it doesn't always happen.
It does not. Sometimes some of our positions can stay open for some time, but you never know. So.
Well, seeing a lot of these names, I know that they've dedicated many, many years to city boards, and I really appreciate that, and I want to thank them for that. But I have concern that, okay, when they're done, who's going to take their place? If we're having no one interested, I'm concerned that we're either not advertising well enough, or for some reason the community isn't interested in volunteering and being a part of the city in this way. And so I feel like we need to figure out efforts on changing that. You know, I don't want to just keep approving the same people and hope that they can just do this for 20 years.
Well, recently we had someone resign, moved from our Board of Adjustments. Katrina Weiss moved from Board of Adjustments to our Parks and our Planning and Zoning. Orly Luceros, you just recently appointed him to our Board of Adjustments. So we have, that sometimes that revolving door where some people serve and they come back, or we have new people that are interested in the positions. We have advertised them on our web because of the newspaper expense. We can, put a notice in the paper, but it isn't one of the cheapest. I mean, it can be very expensive, especially when we advertise for 5 boards. But we're happy to do whatever council would like us to do with that.
Yeah, I think there is a concern around needing a fresh pool of individuals that are volunteering for these boards. And I know that it's been a struggle to get folks to apply. And I would say part of it was maybe part of it was the website and being able to find those listings. So we have a refreshed website, which is great. But I also wonder if the website is the best tool for that recruitment. And it doesn't necessarily have to be newspaper, but it could it be collaborating with, say, League of Women Voters or any other group to provide like an opportunity for people to come and learn about these different boards and how they can participate on them.
Sure, we could reach out to them.
I also wonder if people maybe who have previously run for city council positions and still want to serve in some capacity, the city government, if maybe those folks, and I don't know if we have contact information for them, but it might be good to reach out and just be like, hey, we've got these things if you still are interested in serving.
Yeah, and we actually do that, and Linda's been very good at that every time somebody's not successful there. In fact, we have examples in our pool now, so. But to answer council's question, sure, there's more we can do. We'll try to do more. We would be more than happy to get a lot of applicants, but just to understand the realities are trying to get people to volunteer for virtually anything is very difficult right now. So, but we'll stay on it. We'll keep working on it.
All right, any other questions? Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make the motion that council reappoint the following board members for 3-year terms: George Tripp to the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board, Lance McDaniel for Planning and Zoning Commission, Holly Tatnall for the Library Advisory Board, Karen Sheik also for the Library Advisory Board, Carolyn Goff for the Library Advisory Board, Susie Meyer also for the Library Advisory Board, Glenn Layton for the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, and Samuel Jarvis to the Golf Advisory Board.
Second.
Motion made by Kiefhoffer and seconded by Rainey.
Mayor, just a point of order. I think we missed one name, Karen Sheik, if I heard that right. Is that?
I think you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was that mentioned? Okay, I apologize.
I was talking really fast.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Spruill,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, moving on the agenda, number 8, draft resolutions and ordinances. We have none. City Attorney's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have to continue on the theme of tonight of congratulating the Finance Department. In my job, there's some stress regarding the known liabilities, but there's perhaps even more stress about the unexploded landmines, if you will, that we don't know about. And I know when I was looking at applying for this job, I read newspaper articles and talked to some people about the problems with the audits, and it's very comforting to know that we've got a very competent staff and outside audit team that is resolving this issue. And I know for me personally, it removes one level of stress that I don't need to have. So I want to thank them again. They did an excellent job and are continuing to do an excellent job. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Pat. All right, City Manager report.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got some items for you this evening. First one is our water shares, and I just want to report to the council that we've been successful in working with Montezuma Valley Irrigation Company, or MVIC, in combining most of our water shares into a single certificate. So these are just the MVIC water shares that we have. This is pretty significant since our water shares were certificated under various names of subordinate systems of the city, such as parks and golf, not specifically naming the city. This has left us vulnerable to fraud and/or other losses, and really was not as orderly as we need to be. Apparently, this has been an issue for the city for many years and has not been successfully addressed. I'm really not certain what the disconnect was, but the problem is resolved now, and we are grateful to the MVIC team for their patience and assistance. And by the way, our city attorney have a little bit to do with this. Our water attorney, Scott Kropp, had something to do with this as well. We now have a total of 2 MVIC share certificates establishing city ownership of all 177 shares, and they are now stored in the secure custody of our city clerk. So check that box. Moving on. Now that we're in the new year, the city staff is very busy working on many projects, upgrades, and so on that are necessary for our future operations. Some of these include the year-end financial reports, update to our health insurance plan, finalizing our job descriptions of new or modified employment positions, land use code bid and selection process, identifying a location for a backup dispatch center, water carriage agreement, various capital projects, and finalizing the future disposition of our broadband system, just to name a few. Excuse me. It is a pleasure to work with so many hardworking, competent, and dedicated team members, and I'm proud of what they are accomplishing citywide. I'd like to address graffiti right quick. There's been a noticeable uptick in the number of graffiti incidents recently. We are working to catch up on addressing the damage that has been done and move towards speedy mitigation. Weather is making it somewhat more difficult, but I want council and the community to know that we are addressing the problem. As part of this, everyone is encouraged to contact the police if they observe graffiti incidents in progress or if their property has been damaged by this act. We are planning to do more of an increased public awareness campaign on this and raise this to the community again, and hopefully deter it from occurring in the future. Lastly, I would like to announce that earlier today, so some of the information you were given by the Finance Department is now out of date. Just today, we received a check from the County Treasurer's Office in the amount of $601,741.65. This amount represents the mill levy funds that were impounded by the State Auditor's Office, resulting from our delinquent audit circumstances for the period of October 2nd, 2017 to September 30th, 2021. You were told earlier we only got that released till 2019. 2 more years has been released to us now. So that's a good thing. This was really made possible in large part by the persuasive and intellectual talents possessed by our finance director, Kelly Kosicki. She has successfully developed a relationship of trust with the State Auditor's Office and was able to present evidence needed for them to partially release all of our impounded funds. I also wish to thank Montezuma County and the Treasurer's Office in particular for their ongoing patience during this process. I think it's also important to note with $601,000, we could probably almost fill up one of our refuse trucks with diesel fuel. So I think we're good. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Drew, I have a really quick question about that. Actually, does that money go into the general fund?
It is. It's essentially our property tax or mill levy for those years. And yes, it goes to backfill what we should have received at that time in the general fund.
I was thinking about HVAC units and things like that.
Well, we got to fill up a refuse truck with diesel fuel first. But yes, you're right.
Or get a rec center roof.
Yeah, exactly.
Drew, I just had a question about the increase in graffiti. I've noticed a lot of the same tags repeated throughout town. Do we know who's responsible for those?
I can't really speak for the police investigations at this point. I just don't know is the answer. We know it obviously ties in. I can personally identify some that it is out south of town. It's closer to the airport, right by World G. I see it on Broadway a little closer than I see some literally darn near across the street from City Hall here across Main. So obviously we got some people there, they're working on those sort of things, and if we can identify them, we will take legal action and do.
Can we add that graffiti removal program to the front page of our website under like the news thing?
I think we can. That's already been talked with Mr. Creighton Wright and John Brooks. They are working as we speak to address that. So yes, we're
Perfect.
going to get it out in many different forms. And we did have that flyer, if you recall, that was put out before that kind of gave some guidance to the community on what to do if you get it, who to report it to, et cetera. We're going to raise that up. And, you know, just like so many things, including our volunteers and so on, sometimes it takes up to 7 times to tell people. It's just who we are as people. There's so much white noise out there. So, but we're on it, and we'll keep telling.
Great, thank
Have
you.
we been getting any people contacting the city about the graffiti removal?
You know what, I don't have those numbers in front. We do have some, yes. I don't have the numbers in front of me, though.
All right, thank you, Drew. We'll move on to 11, the city council committee reports. 11A is the mayor's report on the workshop. So our workshop was short today. We just had one presentation from our city staff members who worked on our new website that is up and running, and just explained the process with that, and yeah, announce to the citizens that we have a new website, and if you see any bugs, let us know, but otherwise it looks really good. So, and then Councilmember DeHaven talked about childcare in our community and lack thereof, and then also mentioned that there is a public survey on childcare needs. What was it? And then conversations about childcare at the library, so look out for that if you struggle with childcare. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to other board reports. We'll start with David's side. Do you have any?
I have nothing this week to report.
All right, Lydia?
On December 29th, I was able to attend the Montezuma County Homelessness Coalition meeting at the Pinion Project. It's ran by Lucia Bueno Valdez, and this group kind of morphed from the Pinion's Housing First initiative and now has become sort of a multi-facet group of people throughout the county that are working to find the gaps in our community where people are falling through. And as you know, I am also a member of the Bridge Emergency Shelter Board, so the Bridge was also a part of this discussion. And specifically, there's been some rising concerns because of several losses of life because of death, because of exposure this winter in the community. And some of those people are folks that can't necessarily be helped by the bridge or by other resources we have. And so in cooperation with also the street medicine program, which has been very successful and is meeting at St. B's during lunch on Tuesdays and then in our library afterwards. We're just trying to get everyone together to discuss the issues, where we can find what the rules are and regulations for different entities, such as like using the rec center facilities, the showers, coming to the bridge, and also where we have large gaps and where we can collaborate. Some of the gaps that were pointed out were the lack of a detox center, day center, and the need for warming shelters. We were able to successfully, the city and county and the bridge, set up a warming shelter outside of the bridge whenever the governor declared that state of emergency during the freeze like a couple weeks ago. But as we know, down here in Cortez, it was actually, the weather was not so bad. It was the few weeks before when we had some really bad freezes that resulted in a loss of life. And based on the success, though, of using that warm-up shelter, which the fire department had purchased during COVID and was able to set up for us, there's talk about perhaps in the future doing some collaboration and having standards where if it reaches a certain temperature that we would automatically set up a warming shelter. And just for your information, the warming shelter would be open when the bridge is also open, but also other hours. And it would also be a space where people could come in that perhaps have behavioral or health issues that the bridge is not suited to take care of. And another large gap in the community that was identified was people that have reoccurring health issues that need medical attention that don't really qualify for like emergency room treatment. And then there's been some issues with getting people into some of the nursing homes here. There's been some other cities that Dr. Ashwell was telling us about, like in Boston, where they do respite care, and it's essentially for folks that maybe you have like a chronic infection that you need to be sheltered and to be taken care of in order to heal that infection, or in order to move forward with your health, but you don't qualify for these other things. So that's something that the group's also interested in looking into. Maybe perhaps like combining that with some type of detox or whatever in the future, and talking about some grants. This group, the Montezuma County Homelessness Coalition, meets every Monday, but they do a lot of talk about specific individuals in the community and a lot of case working. And so now that the group has evolved to this larger entity, it was also decided that they would now meet just to discuss these gaps and moving forward with supporting these members of our community on the third Monday of every month at 3 p.m. So that would be a more specific towards community and county-centered goals meeting versus like individual case management. Yeah. And I think that's about it. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, and there was, it was brought up, and Creighton, right, was also there, that the city is going to look into opening a public restroom. And I know Creighton's done a lot of work with them and Isabella with making space available for people during the day. Creighton's allowed people to be in the foyer and entryway of the rec center, and I've seen lots of folks in there staying warm, which is great.
Great. Thank you, Lydia. No board reports? Okay.
That's all I have. Yeah.
We meet on the 20th.
Okay. How about you, Dennis?
Golf course isn't meeting.
Okay.
I was able to attend the Historic Preservation Board meeting on Monday. The board appointed Linda Toll and Holly Tatnall as chair and vice chair respectively. And then we also received an update on the 2022 progress, the progress of the 2022 CLG grant, as well as the status of the application for the 2023 CLG grant.
Great. Okay. We'll end the other board reports. No executive session tonight. Public participation. So we have a second public comment section. Do we have any commenters? All right, we'll end that. And then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, motion made by Yazzie and seconded by DeHaven.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Spruill,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, thank you all for being here tonight.